Let's bring in Liberal MP now, Tony Passon. Tony, good to catch up as always. Thanks for joining me. Firstly, I just want to get your reaction to these revelations that Labor briefed state agencies on the return of ISIS brides, and how contradictory is it to what we've been hearing from Labor all week?
Well, Danica, like you, I think it's scandalous, and I think this story has a lot further to run. What we're now seeing is Labor trying to talk out of both sides of its mouth on this issue. As kind as I can be, we've got a government that's currently indifferent about the return of these ISIS brides. I don't want a government that's indifferent about their return. I want a government using every single power at its disposal to ensure these women who left this country to join jihad don't come back. They can use the Passports Act, but quite frankly, every single arm of government should be focused on ensuring Australians are kept safe, and part of that is for these individuals never to return home, all 34 of them.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And the other thing is Tony Burke admitted today that they have not been interviewed since 2022 and that security officials won't be going back there to interview them. I mean, it doesn't really fill you with any hope, does it?
Well, that's my point. If you were genuine in your desire to ensure these individuals don't return, you would send officials to go and interview these women and get as much detail and information as we can to ensure that were they to return, noting that we are doing, I would hope we're doing this to ensure they can't, but were they to return, that they face the full force of the law. I mean, that's a classic example of this indifference. It's like all care, no responsibility. Oh, well, if they come home, that's fine. We'll deal with them then. I mean, that is the reason why more and more Australians are losing faith in this government and its decision-making.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And in the end, they left here willingly. They knew what they were doing when they left this great country to go and join that death cult. So, you can't convince me that this is a wonderful idea to bring these women back. I've got no sympathy for any of them. I mentioned just before as well, the Prime Minister has also downplayed immigration concerns, especially from Islamic countries. Now, I personally think, Tony, that immigration is an acute vote-driving issue. I mean, Labor's let in more than 1.1 million migrants into the country. It's not also about how many, it's about where they're from. We've seen, 3,000 Gazans come here with little to no security checks. But why do you think that the Prime Minister is so desperate to play down the immigration concerns?
Oh, because of his track record. I mean, the reality is, on his watch, we've seen record levels of migration. And I've got to say, if he's downplaying the sentiment that is out there in community, more fool him. Danica, your grandparents, my parents, came to this country. They came to make a contribution. They came to join Team Australia, not check into Hotel Australia. They shared our values and wanted to be part of this great country. And the reality is there is a whole cohort of people who are coming to this country who now don't share those values, and we need to ensure we have appropriate mechanisms in place that such that people that do come to this country understand that it is a great privilege. I mean, Australian citizenship, in my view, is the golden ticket, and we shouldn't just be giving it out willy-nilly. Having said that, Prime Minister needs to understand that the best, I think, retail politician in the country right now, Peter Malinauskas, understands the concern people have around this issue, and he's making it very clear that he's speaking directly to One Nation voters because he's worried about the rise in sentiment and support for that political party.
Well, I do actually want to ask you a question on One Nation, but just back to migration, and you do have a point on that. Earlier in the week, we saw a Susan Lee drafted up policy that she was apparently got a release but never did, and it had restrictions on a certain amount of countries or people coming from parts of countries, particularly terrorism hotspots. Would you support a proposal like that, so a ban on certain regions?
Danica, I don't think this should be based on geography. I think this should be based on values. Now, of course, I think when individuals are coming from particular hotspots, I think you really need to ramp up the checking to ensure that people who are coming to this country share our values. They, for example, respect the rule of law and are prepared to buy into Western civilization, if you like. But geography, I don't think, should be the test. I think it should be values, people coming with the right attitude, the right aptitude. I'm open to the idea that we might have waiting periods that give us the opportunity to make those assessments. And of course, anyone who doesn't meet the requisite standard, they can check out of Hotel Australia as soon as we can make that happen.
But how do you test for that? How can you really judge a person's values?
Well, this is something that we'll need to work through the detail of, Danica, because this is an important element of where, as I understand it, Angus Taylor wants to take us. But like I said, I'm not suggesting that geography is irrelevant. Obviously, where there are these hotspots, there will need to be a greater degree of scrutiny. But I really do think you can't simply tar one geographical area completely with the one brush. I mean, that's not a values-based system, and we need to ensure that we're operating a values-based system, because I think the mistake that's been made in the past is we've allowed people to come to this country who don't share our values, who don't want to buy in, who don't understand that the quid pro quo here is you come to make a contribution as opposed to come and receive. So I think we'll need to work through the criteria. It's difficult. It's devilishly difficult, but we'll need to get those settings right, because it's only by doing that that we can ensure we can create that cultural cohesion that we longed for and that perhaps we had in the 80s and 90s.
And post World War II, I would say, dating
Correct.
back that far as well. Just very quickly on One Nation, there was that poll in the Daily Telegraph today. So in terms of a three-party preferred measure, this tracks competitiveness between the coalition and One Nation. It suggests that the opposition leader Angus Taylor has a mountain to climb to claw back support from One Nation. Labor's well ahead there. One Nation 29%, the coalition they're on 27%. You've got a lot of work to do, Tony, but you know, between now and the next election. How do you do that?
Well, you're right. The election of the new leader has brought us to the bottom of the mountain, and we need to climb it. The way we do it is we turn the Liberal Party back into a policy. We'll create a set of policies that meet the needs of the Australian people, but more importantly, reflect traditional conservative Liberal values. I mean, I think one of the reasons why people are moving into the One Nation column is they're confused about what the Liberal Party stands for. That's not an Australia or a Liberal Party that we saw under John Howard or Tony Abbott. People knew instinctively what the Liberal Party stood for, and it stood for policies that met the standard of traditional Liberal conservative values. And we need to do that and make it very clear. But Danica, I'm saying to my colleagues, talk's cheap. The reality is we need to act like a centre-right political party, or we need those policies to be set out clearly and communicated to the Australian people. And then we need to act every day in accordance with the values and the standards we set for ourselves. It's only on that basis that we can start walking up the track to climb this mountain. Any deviation off that track, it's a very narrow path. Any disunity, any attempt to talk about ourselves will throw us off that course, and we will never climb this mountain, and we'll just see One Nation vote climb, pardon the pun, up and up and up.
Yeah, look, you're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. A long road ahead, but, you know, I hope for the best for the party, that's for sure. Tony Passon, nice to see you as always. Thanks very much for joining me.
Authorised by Tony Passon, Liberal Party, Mount Gambier.